So, I am aware that some individuals here have the luxury of only having to focus on waking up, brushing their teeth, picking out that outfit that matches those dope new sneakers that you got, and then proceeding to the next day or your classes the next day. They may not have to worry about prejudices against their skin color, the food they eat, or the way that they speak. They do not have to worry about getting called racial slurs or being stopped for walking in a suburban neighborhood because you don't look like you belong here. In more extreme cases, they may not even have to worry about getting shot or being physically abused just because their eyes are slightly angled or the hue of their skin is darker than their own. Sadly, this is the reality of many minorities here in America. The majority of the reasons why we have classes that teach students and faculty racial awareness is so that we can see life through the eyes of the oppressed. It makes no sense to take these courses if no one is utilizing these skills and information learned outside of the classroom. As a minority myself, I have personally witnessed students and staff refuse to exercise the ability to gain their own understanding of things to say and not to say in racially sensitive situations. Some just don't care, and I'm okay with that. But I know this classroom does care, which is why today I invite you to take notes and hopefully be amongst the first to take initiative in developing your own racial literacy. First, I will address the need for racial literacy through survey data and the evidence that I gathered. Second, I want to explain the steps we can take to develop our own racial literacy. Finally, I will allow you to envision what it would look like if everyone exercised racial literacy effectively and intentionally. So to start off, let's look at the evidence gathered from my survey and other cases. All over America, there has been more of a demand for race classes that teach the importance of diversity and racial literacy. According to the survey that I conducted for this speech, a majority of the respondents did not seem to have a clear understanding of the concept of racial literacy. So, what is racial literacy? According to Sesame Street and Communities, yes, Sesame Street, racial literacy refers to the knowledge, skills, and awareness needed to talk thoughtfully about race and racism. I will also add that it's important to also learn about the difference between anti-racism and just not being racist. It is the ability to identify racism, learn methods to end or cope with racism, and understand the role racism plays in society. It is a two-way conversation and not one-sided in regards to opinions. My survey results also show that 61% of the respondents say their own racial literacy could be better. 50% of them say that students and staff could work on their racial literacy and race awareness. Some of them also gave detailed experiences of discriminatory behavior towards their friends or themselves here on this campus. So, the risk of not developing our own understanding of race and anti-racism could bring about greater issues that could be civil or criminal. So let's take a look at a recent issue that I have labeled Case K. In this case, Student A was verbally abused and physically attacked by Student B while Student A was working at the front desk of a dorm. CBS News reports that Student B continued to hit the student A, and called her racial slurs while Student A exclaimed, "Can you please stop?" while holding her back. Now, I want to mention that Student B was incoherently drunk, but you know what they say, drunk minds speak sober thoughts. So, how can we use racial literacy in this situation? Well, first you have to know that Student A looked a lot like me, and Student B looked a lot like many of you in here. Now, most people would say, well, why didn't Student A fight back? I would have hit her back if that was me. Even I said that when I first read the label. But then I thought, that is a dark-skinned woman. And in this society, a dark-skinned woman cannot hit back. Sometimes can't even show their emotions, because she will immediately be labeled as aggressive or the starter of the situation. But now, Student B is facing criminal charges ranging from public intoxication to the assault of an officer. She also lost her job and had to withdraw from the university. So what does this have to do with any of you? According to the school's research page, they have active resources and programs that teach students how to develop racial literacy, and even includes digital toolkits, videos, exploring ways to undo racism. So student B obviously ignored the need for self-education of racial awareness, and she never took advantage of the resources made available to all of the students on her campus. This situation can be prevented if we take the time to develop our own understanding of race and recognize the individual prejudices we may have. Being racially literate is beneficial to all individuals because it promotes equal treatment of everyone regardless of their racial and ethnic backgrounds. First, each of us needs to reduce our own racial bias. In 2020 article in HMH, an education and learning technology company, Tyrone Howard cites social justice educator Robin DiAngelo, who discussed how some white educators have an issue with discussing race in classrooms. According to DiAngelo, the real issue is the insulated environment of racial protection in favor of the white race. So, what does that mean for student A? Maybe she was taught those things. Maybe her parents taught her to say those words. I'm sure that her school did not teach about Black history, Latino history, Asian American or Asian Pacific Islander history. In fact, I'm kind of sure because there are 8 schools here in America that don't even want to teach anything about race. So next, reflect on your own feelings about race and discrimination. And then finally, do not be afraid to have the hard conversations with your peers and or students about race. Ask questions to avoid misunderstandings. Hold each other accountable. The past few years have seen an increase in racial literacy among students and faculty, which hopefully will keep improving in the years to come. Envision a world or a campus that facilitates healthy conversation about race. What would that look like? There would be an increase in racial awareness, therefore benefiting the students and faculty. In an article written for Black Curriculum, educator Ashline Benjamin talks about the benefits of creating affinity groups such as white and Black/ethnic pupil groups. She noted that the pupil groups provided an opportunity for the white children to learn the concept of race. Now, I'm many of your friends here, and you can always feel free to ask me any questions. Don't jump to conclusions. With increased racial literacy, majority groups would be mindful about the words they choose and how it makes minorities feel. They will recognize that statements like, when I look at you, I don't see color. But if I showed you a rainbow, you would see red, orange, yellow, so on. Or, you speak good English. These are examples of verbal microaggressions. For faculty, facilitating racial awareness in the classroom will prevent students of color from feeling offended, overlooked, or unappreciated. According to an article published by the National Council of Teachers of English, effectively conducted conversations about race will allow education professionals to adapt their pedagogy to a more and more culturally and racially diversified environment. So for swift change to happen, every single person needs to be active in gaining racial literacy and building one's race awareness. There has to be a change. There is no longer any excuse to overlook that knowledge when we live in a world with growing racial and ethnic diversity. Avoiding the learning process puts you at the risk of losing others' respect for you, being ostracized or canceled. No one wants to be a Karen, and that doesn't just go for Caucasian people either. So following this speech, I am sure the students and faculty will facilitate healthy conversation and increase your racial literacy through self-education. The time is now to take the focus off the offender and put the focus on the offended. Thank you.